We have a young lady here who's going to share and be extremely transparent with us about her life, the cards that she was dealt, and how she ultimately became a winner given the cards. That she's going to be authentic. She's going to provide you with insight and things that she possibly have never shared before. So we want you to not judge, but use this as an opportunity to have a conversation within your own home, within your small circle, and possibly question yourself in terms of how you should move forward as life continue to life. You know? So can you please say your name? Shaniqua, thank you so much for sharing with us today. We want to just dive into it. We're not going to play around with it. We're going to just start talking about life. In terms of where you're from?
Originally from Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
Raised in Columbia, Gonzalez Garden, Lion Street, McDuffie area.
Okay, so you're from the Metro?
Metro.
All right. In terms of upbringing, are you an only child? Are you one of many? Exactly?
With my mother, I'm one of four. With my father, I'm one of many.
Okay. One of many. I'm one of a tribe myself. I understand in our community, it's not uncommon to be one of many. Or to have that blended family.
One of 27.
Yeah, I'm not of a tribe quite this large, but definitely one of 18 for me. I get it. In terms of children, do you have any children? 6 children?
And 3 bonus.
Okay, and 3 bonus babies. Okay, so a total of 9.
9.
All right, and what are the ages?
My children is 9, 11, 12, 8, 29, and 31.
Oh, so you have a gap.
Yeah.
Okay. Try it again. Oh yeah, I hear you. I wasn't that daring after the one that God gave me.
Oh.
Yeah, but definitely, nevertheless, beautiful family. How many boys, how many girls?
I have 2 boys and 4 girls. And my stepchildren, I have 1 stepson and 2 stepdaughters.
Okay.
6 girls and 3 boys.
All right, so we know not to mess with your family. Absolutely. I understand. In terms of life, so are you married now? Are you?
I am 14 years.
Okay, 14 years. And may I ask, are your children all of your husbands, or were you?
My last 3.
Okay, your last 3.
By my husband.
Okay, so you've had some life has been lifing before you met your husband.
Yes.
Okay, so you got some experiences that you're willing to share.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in terms of in regards to your children, how has life been for them in terms of what they've seen? Have they so you have the older 3 and the younger 3?
My older 3 have experienced a different type of mother now.
Okay.
This mother here is a child of God. My older children, they dealt with about that life mother in the streets, you know.
All right.
Didn't know how to deal with things. I dealt with it in anger.
Okay. So I understand that there are multiple phases of your life, and there are different faces of your life. And so we're going to dive into the things that I'm privy to know in terms of the abuse and the trauma, as well as the mental health. Paint the picture for us. Where did you grow up? I mean, I know you grew up in Gonzalez Garden, but in terms of, for those that are watching that are unfamiliar with the area, exactly what does Gonzalez Garden look like?
Well, it was the oldest project in the Metro.
Okay, so it's a project.
Yes.
Okay.
Lion Street was the street from Gonzalez Garden.
Okay.
It was the hood.
So it's safe to say that you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Far from it.
Okay.
Far from it.
Mom, dad in the home, or?
Not my father.
Okay.
And not my mother at first.
So you've been parentless at some point also?
When we left New York without my mother. And then she came. So we left New York with 1 family member and ended up with another family member in Columbia. And then my mother came.
How was that life without your mother at some point?
It was her. It was her.
Do you think it could have possibly impacted the way you reared your children, or the experiences that you've had, the negative experiences?
Yes.
Okay, that's great to know. So here we have a young lady, a mother, a sister, an aunt, who's experienced life, which is sometimes very common in the African American community, where you have a broken home, you have parents that are not together for whatever reason, you have mom rearing all the children, being the provider, you have dad who's possibly, in most cases, somewhere else raising someone else's children, or making more children and not taking care of the kids that they have. And then you have these children that are products of mom and dad that are broken, that are hurt, that are going through things that we think you'll get over it. And what we don't realize is that over a period of time, those things fester and we get the snowball effect. And when I think about my snowball, because we all are imperfectly perfect beings, you know, when I think about my own, I think about the things I've gone through. But this is about you and what you've gone through. So let's talk a little bit more about let's talk about the parental type abuse. So when you said that mom was away for a while and that led to some type of abandonment or feeling.
I felt like it, but at the age, couldn't understand it until I got older. But my father was abusive.
Okay.
My mother got away. We ended up with another family member. My mother went back to my father, which caused us to be in South Carolina and living with another family member. So it was 12 of us in a 2-bedroom house, 1 bathroom, and that was our life until my mother came.
Wow, I'm sure it was a struggle.
In the midst of me coming to South Carolina, I already felt like what's going on, like knew something was wrong, but then when we got here to South Carolina, I was molested by a family member. Was
it one of those things where you were molested by a family member, but you couldn't tell anyone? Or would they have not believed you if you told anyone?
My family is so close-knit, like things like that, at that age, I didn't think they would believe me.
So you were being molested and you were internalizing?
I suppressed it.
For how long?
For years, over 40 years.
Wow, 40 years of living with this secret. You know, we oftentimes in our community, we are taught that we pray about everything and that we internalize it, and you're a strong black woman and you're a strong black man. And what we're realizing is that we're creating a very combustible type device where at some point, whoever is around is going to be the benefactor of you losing it because you got the secret. How was it though, living with that secret for so long?
It would come and go, and when I would talk about it, I would call it a dream. When I would tell people, I have this dream that, you know, this family member touched me and made me touch him, but it wasn't a dream. It was me trying to tell somebody that this happened, but it was hard.
And how was it for you when you decided that you're going to speak up about it?
And that's moving forward into the pandemic.
Okay.
And after the pandemic, when I started dealing with the anxiety and depression, it's like everything started coming out. I couldn't hold things back no more. The world shut down, couldn't go nowhere, couldn't escape, so everything just started coming out. And I had a phone call with a family member that was talking about something that was irrelevant. And I got upset, and I said, well, let's talk about something that's relevant. And I put it out.
What was that feeling after having exposed it?
I was still hurt. I was still hurt. Well, I was mad.
But did you want that family member that violated you to be hurt, or were you more sorrowful that you had to have exposed them? What was your feeling? Because most of the time when you are a victim of anything, you want to protect the person, the violator.
I wanted to protect him. He's a family member. But after it got out, it was no more holding back. I'm calling it what it is.
Do you feel like a burden has been released?
I actually spoke with this family member, and I told this family member that I forgive him, and you know that I forgive him already, but I hadn't got anything back in return. It's okay.
Yeah, well, the thing that we don't realize is that forgiveness is for us. It's not for the person we're forgiving. And the reality is that when we carry, I know that Erykah Badu has a song, Bag Lady. You're gonna hurt yourself carrying all those bags. Well, we as men, we have bags too. And women don't realize the magnitude of those bags. And when you're carrying those bags around, everything and everybody around you are being negatively impacted by those bags. So we want to talk a little bit more about those bags. You know what it looks like. But good for you that you were able to confront your violator. But and when you look back over your life, from the time you had that conversation with the family member, where do you see this particular incident has negatively impacted your life?
I don't see where it negatively impacted. It actually helped. Because what I was afraid of years ago of putting it out there, I had family support after putting it out there. So I actually had the family support.
That's good that you have had the support, and you continue to have that support from your family. And as your children as well, the ones that are old enough to understand. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But in the midst of me telling my family what happened to me, come to find out, it happened to one of them.
And the unfortunate thing is that there are probably more. But in our community, and I will say our community because we don't have talks about molesters and violators and pedophiles in the Black community. We don't talk about mom introducing the family to a pedophile. Or we don't talk about family members, papa and uncles, even siblings, violating their own loved ones. It's happening, and it's happening today, and it's happening, but it was one of those things that we didn't talk about. So I want to commend you on being willing to talk about it, because there are a lot of little girls out here that's living the life that you've lived, and hopefully this will empower them. And I want to also educate people and say that we have a lot of little boys that are being molested by men as well, uncles and aunties, and we have these negative connotations associated with the behavior of those young men, when in all actuality we have not protected our children. And our children aren't anybody's kids, because I'm sure that in growing up in the gardens, if you did something at someone else's house, they were going to handle you at that house.
Oh, yeah.
And then send you to someone, and you pray that they don't tell your parents. So I understand.
And my great-grandmother, she actually lived in the G. We never lived in the G, but that was our hangout spot from Lion Street.
Okay. Well, that's powerful. It's powerful.
And when my great-grandmother passed, keeps the family together. When my great-grandmother passed, that was it.
Wow. So that's just one encounter of abuse that's significant, because you have to learn how to enjoy being touched by your intimate partner, and it messes with your psyche. And many times the partner doesn't even understand. It's not even about them. You got to seek. So thank God you were able to get that off your chest.
And I've shared that with my husband years ago, so he knew, because I have my last 3 are girls by my husband. So when they would lay in a bed with him and covers, I would come in the room and snatch the covers off of him, off the bed, because I wanted to see hands. And he couldn't understand why I would always do that when I had to tell him.
Okay.
The hands under the covers. I have to see hands.
Unfortunately, we're in a time where everybody has to be exposed, and my daughter, I can tell you, have never spent a day away because I was so afraid of them. It's happening every day, and we have a responsibility to society to make sure that we're protecting our children, and that we're understanding when people, if someone tell you that they've been molested, don't say, well, oh, she's a liar or he's a liar. No, there's a great likelihood that they have been molested. And thank God that you are doing well, in spite of having other problems resulting from it.
I think doing better, but to find out that it happened to one of mine by a different family member took me somewhere.
Outraged, angry,
murder angry. And this loved one has already passed away. I wanted to go to the site and burn his site.
Yeah, I understand.
It's like what happened to me, okay, I could deal with this, but to know that it happened to one of mine is like.
And again, it's one of those things that you think your kids are fine. You think that they are not in harm's way, and you're a great parent and you're a super parent, but you can't be with them all the time.
I'm like if somebody touch you, mommy not gonna kill them. In my head, yeah, I may attempt to, but the kids don't want mommy to go to jail. So sometimes kids don't tell because of what we put in their head, Well, I don't want my mama to go to jail, so I can't tell because she's gonna kill him or she's gonna hurt him, so I can't tell my mama. So I try to use different words like, we're just gonna go to the police and they're gonna be held accountable, but in the back of my mind it's like,
them catch a case.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of the ways that we overlook catching these opportunities is in our community, we like to call things other than what they are. When we talk about the anatomy, we don't use correct terms. So we may say your pocketbook or your you're boom boom. In reality, when they're being questioned, the person that's questioning them chances are they don't look like us, nor do they know the names that you've given it to your children. So they may be truly trying to find out if your child has been fondled or touched. But because they're not calling it their boom boom, your kid is saying no. But if they use the correct name, your kid can identify with it because that's not what you call it. So it's important that we start using the correct terms so that when other people are asking our children, authorities are asking, they can answer those questions correctly. Because again, we have to hold ourselves accountable and make sure that we're empowering our children. But it's never the victim's fault that you were violated.
And I used to think that. Like, what was wrong with me? What was written on me that you can do this to me? I have a family full of females. Why me, let alone any family, any female? But I used to blame myself. What was it about me? Was I more developed than the rest of the family members? Like, why me? Why me?
Well, I would encourage you, don't think about why. It's a part of your journey. And believe it or not, the things that we experience through life get us to a point where we are today. It could have been anybody else, but you would not be the person that you are today. So you think about all the strength that you found through all the experiences, negative or positive, that you've had. So when you think about it, you think about how resilient you are, how perfectly made you are. You're made in God's image, so you know that God doesn't make any junk. So just think about that. You experience that level of abuse, but how about domestic violence or in your past, like past relationships?
Just moving forward, I've had relationships where, yes. And some of my friends know about it, some don't.
Okay.
But yes, I was in an abusive relationship.
Let's talk a little bit about that. I think it's a lesson to be learned, or many lessons to be learned in terms of abuse. Now, I will add one caveat. There are a lot of men being abused also. So when we talk about abuse, let's unearth abuse. So let's talk about these type things, because again, in our community, we don't talk about it. We assume that everything is good, and in Colombia, I tell you, I'm very baffled at the fact that we in Colombia have so many men killing women, domestic violence. Everybody thought that they were doing well. So let's talk about this, because I think you said that some know and some don't know, and that's usually the case. You share it with a few, but not a lot because of...
Or even to the extent.
Okay, so what when you talk about violence, domestic violence, what does that look like, or what was that for you?
It was mental abuse, verbal, emotional, and physical. And the physical was serious. No, I would rather take the physical than the mental and the verbal, because that stuff I can shake off. The hitting, I can shake that off, but the mental, that.
And how long did you just stay in it, in that particular situation?
I stayed.
You stayed? Wow.
Until God blessed me with my husband.
Okay. Hey, I know that's what I'm saying.
I stayed through all the beatings, all the lies, the cheating, the babies.
What was the thing that made you stay?
When I think about it now, I don't know what made me stay. I believe it was a stronghold, because it was only by the grace of God that I was even able to leave him alone with no feelings. All attachments was lifted. I felt something leave my body.
You were just done when you were done.
And I hadn't met my husband yet. I met my husband a week later over the phone.
But you was done, and
I knew that day that I was done.
So did you have fear while you were in there? Or you thought that that's the way a normal relationship should go?
Again, growing up in the G, that was the norm.
Wow.
But if he's hitting me, he loved me,
So would you get to a point where you would instigate these type of physical altercations? Because you associated with, if he loved you, he would hit you.
No, I don't think I instigated. I would be in the mirror doing my hair, and he would come in, and that's a fight.
Wow.
Where are you going? What you doing your hair for? But we used to go to the clubs. If he was at the club and I went to the club, that was a fight. I'm interfering in his cheating. You're supposed to be home, so why are you here? So that was a fight.
Wow.
I've been choked out to where literally passed out. And when I caught my breath to stand up, I was punched in the chest where I fell back again. I was shot at.
And why didn't anyone else help?
No.
So while this is going on, but to everyone else, it appeared that you were in a loving relationship.
Not even loving. I was just
with someone. When you think about your family and your friends and even colleagues that you've come across that are in those type of relationships, do you think that they feel like that's the norm?
I think they're afraid to leave. They're afraid.
But you do know of instances where there were.
Yes. I have family members that went through it.
So you pretty much was in it until death do you part with a person that's not even your spouse.
As I think about it now, he wasn't really nothing to me. I had a child by him.
That's it.
I was in a relationship with him. I built up his character when I knew who he really was. When I knew, so it's all I was in a relationship. He wasn't.
Wow. What would you like for them to know?
It won't stop. Leave. It will not stop. You will get so angry to either he's gonna kill you or you're gonna kill him. And it got to that point. I would actually carry blades, not for females, but when I knew like he's coming around, a fight is gonna start. So I just have no blades ready.
Wow. Have you ever been in a relationship and you didn't want to be intimate and that person forced himself on you? Because again, that's something that we find that because we are in a relationship doesn't mean that this person has total rights to your body.
It was a stronghold. So to me, he had the rights. I would see other guys, he would see other women, but when he wanted to see me, whoever I was dating had to
go.
Yeah, I'll see you later.
And you, at some point, you knew that it was time to go.
Whoever I was dating at the time knew too, that if this individual called.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's very powerful because believe it or not, you're not an anomaly and you're not a unicorn. And what you're experiencing or you're expressing is something that's very common. It's more common than not, and it's unfortunate that it is common, and believe it or not, and it's not one of those things that's just on the dating side. We're talking about married folks that's been married, that's enduring this level of disrespect. If you ever see a person that going forward, male or female, disrespecting their spouse or the person that they're with, they're probably going to disrespect you. And these are the signs that we don't pick up on. If you see how they treat their circle, they're not going to treat you any better. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. But
when
your
God
strength.
blessed with my husband, I became that beast towards him to protect me. Like I'm not. No one will put their hands on me again. I will kill you. And I took this out on my husband. It was only so far.
Well, when we talked about those bags, that bag lady, you put all of that hurt in those bags, all of that anger, that frustration in those bags. And what do you do when you got those bags and you're moving around? You carrying them from one place to the other. So there it is. God has blessed you with a man, because you had boys before. He's blessed you with a man, but you got all these bags with all this stuff. And you're saying that you tuck it into your new relationship with your then boyfriend, now husband. That's very powerful. To be able to actually state that, to own it. Many times we don't own our mess. We always look for other people. And you know that you've growth looks like owning your own. Wow.
It was me. He can vouch.
I believe you. If you said it was you, I believe it. So you meet your husband, a man, and you take this baggage with you.
I take it.
Okay. And in terms of the baggage, and we don't have to go into the level, but what I'm saying is that for how long were you in the relationship with your husband before you realized that, hey, I need to change, I got some issues?
It had to been our first 4 years.
4 years. Folks, you hear that? 4 years. Wow. And how about your kids? Did your kids, were they so accustomed to the abusive man that was in your life that they never even saw him? Wow. So you were truly...
I have friends here right now that don't know the extent.
Wow. And we think we know our family and friends. This is why we have...
I have this related.
Really? Wow. Well, even if that friend is related, I can assure you that friend didn't expect that.
Oh.
Because again, we think we know our folks.
And she's still my sister. And she's related to the abuser.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that all family members aren't the same, and you chose to have more.
I didn't get out of it. God removed it.
Amen.
It was literally God. My grandmother passed away in 2009. When my grandmother passed away, February the 13th, the next day was Valentine's Day. I was supposed to go and see this individual. Well, I didn't, because I just had a grandmother that passed away. And it was a conversation, and the conversation was, I'm done with this faith and belief BS. Something left my body. I literally felt it. I smiled. I knew then that it was over. I wasn't looking for a husband, so I had no idea I was going to meet my husband the following week. My attitude now is like, yeah, I'm going to do me now. I don't owe nobody nothing. I don't owe nobody anything. I felt something leave my body, so I knew then it was over.
Wow.
God has finally released me.
That was the pinnacle in your life. But I think along the way, if we actually take a look at life, we are being released multiple times, but we're not at a point where we're willing to accept it. You know, it's like you, and I'm a very spiritual person. I love the Lord. That's the way I grew up. That's all I know is God. He's trying to release us, but we don't want to go. Yeah, we don't want to go. And it's like, Lord, show me a sign. And he show you a sign. Well, no, I don't want to see it yet. You know, hold up. You know, I don't have, you know, until we get a sign. And once we get that sign, yeah, then we know. I'm just glad that you took heed at some point. That
literally, I felt it as if I could touch you right now. I felt something leave my body, and I knew that it was over.
And when you started your relationship with your husband, the burden of proof was on him. He had to prove that he wasn't all these things, that he never was.
And when I met my husband, it was over the phone. He's good friends with another family member from New York. So when my family came for the funeral, he called to check on that family member, and we started talking. My intentions was to play with him over the phone.
Because at that point, you weren't delivered. So you weren't looking for a relationship. You weren't going to have more kids. You was just doing you.
I was not looking for a husband.
Wow. What was your mindset, though, in terms of, if you had to say, were you a mean person by then, going through all those experiences? Or so you're one of those, I'm going to tell you this is the way it is, it's my way or no way. And you said that you carried a blade. I know in the Met, women with the blades, hey, you grow up knowing that, hey, she might, hey, you rather box God than to box this woman, you know, because she might catch you at night. You know, did you carry the blade also?
With my husband?
No, with during that period, you know, that you were just doing you had
no.
This, okay,
no,
all right.
No attitude. I carry my facial expression was my blade.
So your older three children were privy to the mom with the attitude. So they saw mom getting raw most of the time.
Over them in other situations, yeah.
So you would about that life in terms of if it started, you're gonna finish it.
Oh yeah.
And your kids knew.
My kids.
Wow. But your younger three, they weren't here yet. So you've transitioned and changed over the course of time. So you're dating your husband, you get married, you have your little ones. The whole time God is preparing you and changing you.
Yeah, I still didn't see it. My husband is from New York, so he had an attitude just like me. So he was a male version of me. I was a female version of him. Mm-hmm. So that's war.
Oh yeah.
That's war. So somebody had to balance, but I was still, my younger children, they saw it at the beginning until God changed me, until I surrendered and gave my life to Christ.
Well, the great thing is that your kids were able to see the transition. But what most often happens is if you don't own it, and a lot of times we don't, if you don't own it, you wonder why little Johnny is acting out. Mm-hmm. That's because Big Teresa was acting out, that we are part of the curse. Yeah. And even when mom and grandma and family and friends have prayed for us, and they were delivered from treating us that way, because we have that attitude, and we're treating our children that way.
Let me go back.
Okay.
I don't remember, like I said, my great-grandmother, she was the firm one, the glue, because my grandmother was about that life as well.
Oh, okay.
New York, you know, from New York to South Carolina, my grandmother was about that life. So we didn't get the I love yous, the hugs, like we didn't get that. You knew you was loved because you had a roof over your head, you had food, you had clothes on your back.
Amen.
You didn't know, like we didn't, oh, I love you, have a good day. Like we didn't do that. And crying wasn't acceptable from where we came from, because crying was a sign of weakness. So if somebody saw us cry, it would be, we have to be getting ready to fight somebody, so we crying out of anger, or we have lost a loved one. But to just cry and say, I'm feeling something that's not right, like I'm not good, I'm not okay, that was a sign of weakness. And if we went to family, it was just like, just get over it, like I don't want to talk about that. So it's a lot of battles, was fought on our own. And my older children got that because they knew I loved them the same way I knew my family loved me. They got a roof over their head, they got food, they got clothes on their back. You loved. It should be more affection. It should be, I love you, but we didn't get that.
Yeah, and you said something about earlier that your father wasn't in the home, but you're saying you didn't get it from the women in the home either.
No.
But you felt like you were loved.
I knew.
So when you think about your family dynamics and your children, at which point were you able to not only show them love the way you were taught, but also tell them that you love?
It was after I had my babies from my husband.
Okay.
Because my babies, Mommy, I love you. Mommy, I love you. My babies would come in and anoint my head and pray over me. So my younger ones, Mommy, I love you. They won't go to sleep until Mommy, I love you. Daddy, we love you. So it's like, it's when I started telling my older children. When I talk to them, I can even fuss at them now, but before I hang up, I love you. But at one point, I couldn't.
Have you ever heard I love you from your father?
I don't remember him.
You don't remember?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I'm kind of glad I don't. My mother, God rest her soul, I used to get mad at my mother for letting us, why did we have to leave New York? Why did you send us? Why did we have to come to South Carolina? You should have left us in New York. And she would only say, you'll see one day.
Wow.
And when that day came, I had to go back to my mother and apologize.
Wow.
And tell her thank you for taking us.
So this whole man loving you is something you had to learn, because you never had it until you got your husband.
Until I got my husband.
So
But even with my husband, I would always sit and wait. It's just a matter of time before, so I would always sit around and just wait, but 14 years later, it never happened. So I just stopped waiting. It's like you're waiting for something like, this man has proven himself to be who loves me, and that's something new. That's something I never had a man to love me.
Have you ever been able to love your husband? I mean, did it take a while to learn how to love a true man? Because everything else was one way. You loved somebody that didn't obviously reciprocate it. So you had to actually learn how to love your husband, or to accept him.
I had to learn how to love him and not put him in the shoes of the other guys that I've dealt with. And I will always say, if we ever got a divorce, 93% of the chance would be me. I ran him away.
Wow.
I ran him.
Wow.
I had to learn how to be a wife, because I played a wife to baby daddies.
Yeah.
Like I played the wife role to when I got married. Now I'm tired. Right. Nobody's getting much from me now. I'm not doing nothing. In all reality, this is my husband. In the sight of God, I'm supposed to do everything now. But because I lived the way I lived in the past, I'm tired. I'm burnt out now.
That's a story. Many women have a burning desire to be a nurturer. And they bring people into their lives, bring men into their lives. They want to fix them, and they want to nurture. And they also, the one thing that I want those that are watching to know is that there's a very slim possibility that you're going to be a man's wife if you're doing wifely duties before yours. Why in the world would he want to make you his wife when he already has all the wifely benefits? It's like, but women, you can't tell most women about that because they feel like that's what they're supposed to do. Because unfortunately, their mothers did that for their boyfriends. And so they learned that behavior, but they don't recognize why I'm always a bridesmaid but never a bride. Well, you're never going to be a bride, or there's a great likelihood that you're not going to be a bride. And you're going to forever be a bridesmaid until you realize that until he's your husband, he's not privy to those things, and for you to say that you had to learn how to be a wife.
I had to learn after pretending for years. Now I'm somebody's wife for real, and I have to learn that role. Because I built up a wall that you're only going to get so much of me. I'm not going to give you all of me. I gave all of me to the past, so you're not getting all of it. So I had to learn.
Did you have to also learn during the course of this time how to be a mother, not only to your little ones, but to the children that you thought you were being a mom to, and you were showing the love that you knew at that time? Was it hard for you?
It was hard because it's breaking down now. It's calling it what it is. My older children saw that mommy that was about that life. We in the G, we fighting, we doing this, we doing that. So they saw that. They didn't see the vulnerable. They didn't see.
During the course of your transition from being about that life to being about God's life, have you lost any family and friends along the way? Because many times what it is, when you are about that life, the people that are around you are about that life. And misery loves company. And you got a lot of friends when you're about that life. But the minute you transition, and especially being from the Met, when you try to do better, people start saying you think you're better. So and in our community it's so bad because we don't support each other and we don't support growing, or getting out of the hood. But we would love to see, who is that? The Jeffersons moving on up. But everybody can move up, but the people we know, So when you think about your life and you think about the progression, and you think about going from being about that life to being about God's life, has it been lonely?
When I first got saved, my pastor told me, my late pastor told me that it was going to be a long walk, that I was going to lose some family and friends, and that it was okay. God was going to bring more in. That was going to help build me. I have some friends that I have been friends with for over 30 years that we are still friends. And I have some friends that I made from co-workers, and one of them is here. She could tell you the mean part, the mean version of me.
Wow. To
where I'm at now. My look had a deadly look.
You say you were more like nicey, or you just, like a little nasty, a little nice, or you was raw with it?
I practiced what I was going to say to people. Like I would literally look in the mirror and practice what I was going to say. The facial expression in the body gesture.
Just to make them miserable.
To cut them to the core. I mean cut.
You would do that day in and day out?
Purposely.
Wow.
And this was after my mother passed.
Okay.
After my mother passed, I became angry. And I was mad at the world. I didn't know how to grieve. That type of girl. My mother passed 6 hours after I talked to her on the phone. So, yeah, I was mad. I was mad with my family. My grandmother had 10 kids. Lord, why you take my mother first? Out of 10 kids, why you take my mother?
Yeah,
I was hurt. I was mad.
On top of life and the dynamics of life. Because when life is life, and it's rough. And if you don't have some strongholds in your circle, you will lose yourself. Did you ever consider, or was it ever an option to get any type of help?
Not at it. The only time my mother passed, maybe a few months later, I remember my son I was in a room, but I literally thought the walls was closing in on me. So I told my son, I said, don't come in the room because the walls are going to close you in too. He called my brothers. They told him to call the police. They came and got me, and they took me to the 5th floor.
Oh yeah.
So,
did you stay?
No, my brothers came and got me.
Okay. But that was your first run in with what the 5th floor had to offer.
Yeah, and they wanted me to get help and start this, but I didn't.
We don't recognize how important it is to get a grieving counselor. And grieving counseling folks don't look like, hey, sis, what's going on? Sometimes you need someone that doesn't know you, that don't have a clue about you, to help you process your feelings. Because we're so guarded, because there are things that you and the person you lost, the things that you've encountered. The dynamics of your relationship is sacred, and you need some help.
And a few days before my mother passed, we had a little argument. I had time to apologize, but she was still gone. And I made the statement, I said, you don't have to worry about seeing me and my kids no more.
And that's something that resonates with you even to this day.
Yes, because God honored, He took my mother. She can't see us no more.
We have the hardest time accepting what God allows. And what we don't recognize is that because life is happening, or life happens, that there's nothing we can do. You know, there's nothing that we can do. Anything that and everything is always in God's control. And believe me, things are going to happen the way they should if we have an altercation or not. But if we are careful throughout life to show those people that are important to us that we love them. Although they transition knowing that I'm loved. And we can't harbor those feelings and take it on with us, because again, that bag is getting full. So we are unpacking.
I was carrying the Empire State bags. I was carrying the Empire State.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because what we're taught, and I'm a firm believer, as I stated, I'm all about spirituality and God. Mm-hmm. Love the Lord. But we don't talk about how God is empowered and given man knowledge to help little old me, because we are carrying the Empire State Building. We're carrying all the stuff that people are willing and able to help us if we raise our hand. And if you don't raise your hand, wave your hand. But in our community, the reason why we don't, because of stigma. It's a negative stigma, and we're told that you're crazy. Or we're told, and I know a lot of saints don't want to believe it, but we're told to go in your prayer closet. Well, you sweep it under the rug or go in your prayer closet. Well, I'm not a housekeeper, and I got some very skilled people that can help me. I am not a person that's going to go in the closet all the time. The closet is packed. I left everything in the closet, you know. But what we don't do is we don't do very well talk about the 5th floor. And for many people that don't know, the 5th floor is the mental health floor at one of the local hospitals. Oh, yeah, or the G building. Yeah.
That's the crazy house in New York.
I know. I have well, we'll talk about that later. But no, or the G building, or in California, we call it 5250, you know, codes for mental health. Because in our community, we make mockery of it, and we don't talk about it. But I'm going to be vulnerable and say that I'm here because I have been treated for mental health. I'm a veteran. I was a single parent at some point. I mean, we were co-parenting. I went through a divorce. I thought I was going to lose it. No, I think I was probably I think I had lost it. I dropped my basket and I needed help. So what did I do? I had to find help. But do you know that I had to go through a whole lot of friends that said, man, you're going to be all right. No, I'm telling you, I'm not all right. Let's talk about how mental health has played a part of what you've experienced.
It wasn't until the pandemic happened. When the pandemic happened, the world shut down. I couldn't escape anything. Like, everything was coming back, and I had to face it. Anxiety, depression, frustration, everything. Past trauma, just everything came back, and I had to deal with it. So I finally talked with my doctor, but she knew it, because she would often tell me, listen, there's help. You don't have to go through this by yourself. There's help out there. But I would never again. I could do this. I'm a child of God. God got me. I'll pray. But God placed people in places to help, and I finally had to get the help. It was affecting everything: my marriage, my children, everything.
Did you tell any of your friends that you were getting help? How was it received?
Well, they all told me I needed it. Years ago.
But they told you were crazy though, right? Okay.
And no, what people see now is who I always been. I pretend to be this mean, hardcore person, attitude, bitter, and they were not dealing with grief. I did not deal with my mother's passing. I didn't let my mother go until 2014. So by that time, she's been gone 10 years. When I finally said, okay, she's not coming back, I would tell my brothers, why won't y'all wake me up? I've been asleep so long, I gotta tell you about this crazy dream. It's not a dream. I would just get mad at my brothers. I'm going back to sleep. I was addicted to Excedrin. I would pop Excedrin 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, I think what you also mentioned is what we in the African American community, what we have done for years, which is code switching. We've learned not to be authentically ourselves because society don't accept us as ourselves. We can't show up certain ways because the rest of the world is not ready for us. So what we learn to do is be who they would like us to be in these venues so that we can be accepted. So that is something that we have done for years. So what we are doing now is we apply those things to our relationships. And so we become puffy in the chest, and we become aggressive, and we become all these things because we've been acting so long. We have to go to work and we act. You can't act like Quita. You got to be Ashley because they're not ready for Quita. You know, they just, I mean, the reality is that, if you're an independent contractor, you have your own business, you can't go with your pants sagging if that's the way because they already have a negative connotation associated with it. So we code switch. We put on some Dockers, we put on a nice shirt, and we're now accepted for as much as they will accept us. And we've gotten so bad that even in our own community, we look at each other and we judge each other in that way. You know, we assume that if you look a certain way, you are a certain way. Don't even know the person. You know, and what people were doing at the time what you were doing at that time was acting a certain way because you've always had that. So now you're authentically yourself.
Yes.
How does it feel?
It feels good.
Wow.
Who I am now is who I've always been. It's the hurt. It's the neighborhood I grew up in. It's losing my mother. And now I'm mad. And I'm going to show the world I'm mad now. So it was no holds barred. I'm mad. And I was actually told I was an unpaid actor for the devil.
Wow. We need to come out of the stuff. You know, that coming out date is the date that you realize that you're going to be authentically yourself. And you're going to work on yourself. And what you had was an epiphany. And it was spirit-led. But you came out of all that stuff. You finally allowed the Empire State Building to stay in New York. You start unpacking those things. And that's so relevant to all of us. We got to unpack those things. Nobody want to know that their baby is ugly. Well, I have to tell you, you know, your baby is ugly. It's not always a beautiful baby. You know, so own it. But we have to own it. You have to look at that baby and say, yeah, we're gonna have to dress him nice. You know, you have to do it. The reality is that you have to be. Yes. Okay. Yes. So we have to be able to identify when there are things about us that nobody has to tolerate it. You know, and what you got to a point where you was like, well, I'm being blessed with a man that's doing what manly things. I got a person that's showing me love, the love that I haven't had. I recognize that the way I've lived my life is counterproductive. That I'm to be called the devil's daughter is significant. At which point did you find Christ in all this?
I always knew Christ. Brought up in a holiness church. So I always knew Christ.
So you never departed from him?
Never departed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I went to a funeral in Atlanta, and at this funeral, after the funeral, this pastor shook my hand, and then he stopped and turned around and asked, can he talk to me? And I said, yes, and he prophesied to me. He told me, God said to stop fighting, and I said, well, I haven't fought yet. That's what I wanted to fight somebody so bad. I felt like if I would have fought somebody, I could have released a lot of negative energy that was in me. Like even now, sometimes I'm afraid of my own strength. But I was prophesied to, and he was telling me everything. And again, growing up in the church, you know, the Bible says, beware of false prophets. They're like wolves in sheep clothing. So I wanted to listen to what this man had to say so I could try the spirit by the spirit. And yes, everything that he told me, only me and God would have known.
Wow.
That was the turning point. I knew then that I had, and this was in 2004. So I knew then that I had, 2014, I'm sorry. I knew then that I had to, okay, God is chasing me. I gotta get it right. In 2015, so I started going to church. Man, my husband just woke up one day and was like, you know, I want to get baptized. And I felt like that was it right there. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna get baptized with you. Like, this is it.
Wow.
And when I came out that water, has it been easy? No.
What would you tell anyone that's watching? How would you tell them to get out of where they are in their own situation or their own mess? What would you, words of wisdom?
I would first tell them to acknowledge what they're going through, call it out, give it a name. Everything don't have to be secret. Everybody's not judging you because what you're going through, somebody may be going through the exact same thing. Talk about it. Seek the help. It's out there. It's available.
Just seek it.
And keep God first. But God places people in places to help. So get the help. Everybody's not crazy. Mm-hmm. Mental health goes deeper than what the eye can see. Mm-hmm. You know, people think, oh, you mental illness, you're crazy. The state hospital, you know, the 5th floor. And that's not it. And I had to learn that. I was depressed for years, never put a name to it. I was depressed for over 30 years. After speaking to my counselor, and she's giving me all this information, like, oh wow, I was depressed for years. Never had a name for it.
I always say that you're crazy if you don't get help, because help is out there, and you have to be willing to get help from a person that's available, and they may not look like you, so you have to be willing to be vulnerable with someone, and there's a great likelihood it will be a person that doesn't look like you. The last thing I will ask you is, what would you say to that girl or boy that's at home that's being violated? What would you tell them right now as a first step, or what would you have liked to have done?
Tell it.
Tell
Talk
it.
about it.
Talk about it.
Don't hold it in. You don't have to fight this battle by yourself. Talk about it.
Now I would just add, talk about it and keep talking about it until you heard. Somebody's going to hear it.
And forgiveness. If a person has violated you, you got to forgive. It took me a long time to forgive. I had a family member that couldn't make it to my mother's funeral. I made myself hate him. That was another thing I was prophesied to. That it was someone that I say I forgave, but I really didn't. But I knew exactly who he was talking about. And I had to make that right.
Forgiveness is really a blessing. It's a tool.
It really is.
It's a tool that allows us to relinquish all the frustration, all the baggage associated with something that could have been out of the person's control. But it's something that we can gift to other people. Just knowing, though, when you are forgiving someone, they may never reciprocate it, or they may never acknowledge it. Again, it's for you, because you are the one that's holding the person that has violated you in any way. Chances are they're moved on with their lives, and they're having their best life, and you still holding on to something. You stole my candy at 3 years old, and greater things. But some people don't recognize that forgiving doesn't mean you forget. It means that you are no longer holding yourself responsible for the actions of someone else. Forgiveness. All right. So we're going to ask anybody if they have any questions at this point. Any questions, comments, anything?
Due to that, I am a long-time childhood friend of her. I wish I had known earlier. I knew some things, but not everything. And I wish I had known earlier, because I would have been there more for her, to support her in this battle. If you're having a conversation, you don't know what's going on with a person until you're having a conversation and they release what's going on. And if I had known what was actually going on, I definitely would have been there much more to give you my love and support, because you know how I feel about you. At this point, don't hold nothing back from me. You can always call me and talk to me. I'm there. If I gotta come to Greenville, I'm always there for you. Remember that. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
I'm glad you didn't cross. I'm glad you didn't.
She's getting it out, because he was my he was my he did my podcast. I did a podcast with him also, y'all. He's very professional, very good. So I hooked him up with Shanika, and I'm just glad you releasing all this pressure, because a lot of stuff that you said gets to a lot of people that you probably really recognize. So I appreciate it.
I wanted to say how proud I am of you. I remember watching from the beginning of when I met y'all, and I'm the cousin of the person that connected her with her mister over there. I'm the baby mama. And I remember meeting them, and the first parts of it, Pablo was making a video. I remember coming to the house when she was meeting him, and that was transitioning into that. I don't remember the abuse part of everything, but I know they was about it. And I knew that, which was fine. And I've been in the family for a long time. Even without the marriage, I'm very close to the family. I remember having the babies, the baby shower, everything. And then even now with the marriage, so proud and so thankful for the change. And guess what? I was a co-worker of hers, and nobody wanted to work with Shaniqua. I was the only one that worked with Shaniqua night after night. First of all, Shaniqua worked too hard. If you work with Shaniqua, you was working from the time you got to work. You might have about an hour-long conversation, but you've been working all night. So when the schedule was coming out, everybody say, "Oh, I don't want to work with Shaniqua." And then I had to stay thankful to be here, because the change has totally. And when I was reading that, I just said this yesterday. People make a 180, but we got to make a 360.
360.
It can't be 180 because you ain't coming but part the way.
Oh yeah.
So I'm so thankful for this. She told me stuff in advance, because when my spirit hit and she come in my spirit, I call her. And even we was like, we gonna go drive to Greenville. But I'm always there to support because she's been a real one. With the abuse, without the abuse, God has covered her, and it's such a blessing to see. And I was there for grandmother passing, mother passing, uncles passing. Been in that family for a long time. Very genuine people, but we all got a lot of baggage in our family. So I thank God that she's able to show this side, because with you having a large family and everybody on the up, when somebody has to come out and put some things out that don't always feel good, but God ain't allowing, to take to be taped up but so long because other people got to heal. I thank God for everything that he's doing in her life. Wish you the very best, and I'm here to support you in everything.
Thank you.
She wouldn't tell me. I just wanted to tell you, baby, I am so proud of you, Nico. From when I first met you, it's like we bonded at 16. And I was grown, but to hang with that little girl.
What you doing hanging with that grown woman?
Oh yeah.
Wasn't thinking. Really is. Still waiting for them 14 you were waiting, and you're still waiting.
For 2 weeks, she flew me down here, and I knew I was bonding that much that I couldn't leave South Carolina without asking her to marry me. I didn't have a ring then. Only thing I could buy is a lollipop ring. But that's what I gave her. All the friends
Every day he would.
that was here, from Tut to everybody, they helped put this wedding for me together and this and that. A lot of people didn't think, they thought I came down here to game her and all that. But it was true love. Without even seeing her face, man.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And I remember I did 12 years in jail, and I said, when I come home, I want to get married, buy a house, get cars, and have more kids. And God accomplished all that with me.
Testament from good guys out here. Great black men out here too. Absolutely.
I just want to say I'm so proud of you, Shaniqua. I'm getting emotional. First friend moved to Columbia to go to college. She was working at the donut hole. My sister and I was at the club, and I remember she scooped our ice cream, and I talked to her or whatever. She said, I think so, gave me the application, and that's where the friendship was established. And I met all these beautiful ladies here through Shaniqua. And she's been a part of my life for 27 years, one of my best friends. And I always knew that we were going to get to this point. So to see it manifest, it really blesses my heart. She's been there for me through ups and downs. I've had a lot going on in my life for the last couple of years, but she's been there. And if she wasn't there physically, she was there over the phone. And I told her one day she was going to bless other people. And we were on the phone when she came up with 360, because I'm a wedding and event planner and I do women empowerment. And she said she was going to speak one day. And I'm so grateful that this day has come. I'm one of those friends she thought something was wrong with, because I come from a very large family as well. And I remember telling her I love her or try to hug her one time, and she was like, I think something wrong with this girl. It's just beautiful. I'm so overjoyed. I bless God. I thank God that I'm even here to share this moment with you. And I'm so proud of you. Keep going. Keep being loving. Keep being the person that God created you.
And this is when I say the loving, like we didn't get that. Even with Teresa, like we didn't. This was my about it. If I'm ready, already ready.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Already thought.
Let's picture,
She
you know, the devil and the angel.
Wait a minute, before you do this, you might want to.
Hugs and the kisses and the, every time we talk, we hanging up, I love you, and and I used to
It's a little uneasy.
yeah, I love you,
Yeah.
and actually show it and say it, and it helped me.
It's a matter of
But
knowing your love.
she's about it too. But
Well, you just
right here.
you changed the way you throw hands and lay hands now.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of your circle for today. I mean, it's blessed me, and I'm sure that this is going to bless other people. I mean, to have a conversation with people in our community is something that we need to do more of, especially when it comes to bettering our community. You know, we definitely are. We like to tell people to do as I say and not as I do. Well, those times have changed, and now we have to tell people to do as I do. You know, and we need to do better. We know better. Now we have to do better. So I hope that if you didn't get anything from today, I hope you at least recognize that your baby is ugly. And you need to go home and find you some designer clothes to put on that baby. All right? But I want you to use this as a catalyst to make positive changes. If it happened to her, either it's happening to you, or it can happen, or to someone else that you know. I mean, we all know that we are not perfect, But allow this to be the one thing that happened today that showed you that you are one worthy of love, but you have to love yourself enough so that when people are around you, they know how they have to love you. You know, so you learn today that one, you need to make some changes, possibly. Two, you need to love the hell out of yourself, because you can't expect for people to love you if they don't see you loving yourself, you know. And then three, you're worthy and you're worth it in every aspect. If you meet a man and he's almost there, you're not his mother. Let him get all the way there and then holler back at you, you know, or your loved ones, your family, your friends. We see it all the time. We're getting killed by significant others when we should have never been with them. But that's because somebody's unwilling to say something because they're gonna hurt someone's feelings. All I'm saying is, if you see something, say something. I don't care what it is. And if